But you can actually have an MRI done. It is measurable. It is testable. In fact, brain function can be measured. Yeah. You don't see germs on your hands. Does that mean you will not use the sanitizer? We used sanitizer during COVID. Did you have to see the germs to use the sanitizer?
No, I didn't.
But when it comes to reality, you don't have to. Again, our 5 common senses are limited. Our eyes have limitations, our ears have limitations, nose and mouth. But we as human beings, we built tools, we built microscopes, for example. If you want to see the stars, use a telescope. There's science for that. Yeah. But now when you come to faith, there's no science, there's no way to know. What tool can you use? Okay, for example, the Bible tells you that heaven is God's throne. We know heaven is the sky. We have telescopes. Nobody has ever seen that thing. At the throne of God with 24 elders singing, holy, holy. No, we've not seen it. Where is it? What are you talking about? That's not in our objective reality. It does not exist. Does not exist.
But maybe God exists, but the God of the Bible might be the one that maybe you...
That's a big maybe. But then also maybe means maybe not. You have to rely on faith again to know such a thing. When you say, that's where I came to, by the way, when I said there is God but not the Son of the Bible,
Yes.
when you deconstruct the Bible and all its mess, the next step people jump into is this thing of we left church but not God. People are drawn into African spirituality. There's also this one called manifesting. This is mysticisms, Gnosticism. There are so many options available to a person. Some even deconstruct Christianity and jump to Islam. So there's a lot of mess that happens in between there. But
Yes.
people are drawn into different faith systems. And another thing I've seen people doing is concocting. Somebody mixes Jesus, mixes Allah, mixes traditional deity, creates something totally new, but it's all more confusion. The basic questions that we need to be asking ourselves is, how can you prove there is a God? How can you prove there's a spiritual realm? How can you know?
See, you can just see how excellent we are as human beings and the opportunities He has given us. And you can look at the firmament, the sky, the space, the asteroids, the planets, the sun that gives us the light, the radiation. That shows that there is a supreme being.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay.
The idea that the earth is beautiful, and indeed there are a lot of magnificent things in the earth, and even
Yes.
in outer space, the galaxy, it's so beautiful, it's wonderful, yes. But when you say there is a God, which God are you talking about? There are over 10,000 different gods.
I just believe in
Of
the
men.
God of all of them, the supreme, the most supreme.
No, that's another delusion right there. Because that's another must be argument, that there must be a God.
Yeah,
That there
that's how
must
I
be a
think.
creator. Okay, let's even assume there's a creator.
Yes.
Let's even make the assumption that a creator exists.
Yes,
Who made that creator?
He made everything.
No, who made him or her?
None.
Now
No,
that's
nobody
another
made
problem you have, because the idea that the universe has to have an originator, that it cannot be self-existing, right? And then you introduce the idea of a creator. Now, this creator, you're telling me that this creator is self-existing? Why not then take that self-existence of the creator? If self-existence is a thing, why can't you take that self-existence and apply it to the universe itself? If self-existence is a thing, that something can exist without being created, why don't you take that same principle and apply it to the created things? If at all you can call them created things, right? The other problem you have with arguing for a creator is this. Nobody was there. You can't prove it. We don't have, maybe there are, okay, you can look at nature, for example. There are things like radiometric dating, which through science we've been able to know that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old with a 1% margin of error. Our Earth is 4.5 billion years old. And the universe is 13.5 billion years old. That is done by radiometric dating of our rocks. The rocks, you look at the rocks. These are scientists, they make up.
Which rocks? Rocks on Earth.
Rocks on the Earth, yes.
But rocks on the Earth, 4 billion.
Yes.
But
We are looking for the age of the Earth itself, the Earth itself. Okay. And when you talk of 4.5 billion,
the oldest rock that we found.
Yes. But you see, now that's objective reality. That's not faith. That's not faith. That is science. That's objective reality. So the idea of a creator is an absurd thing to fight for, because you can't prove it, you can't know it, and more to it. Many people have come up with so many ideas of God, over
Yes.
10,000 different deities, from Zeus, Athena, Jesus, name them. There's so many of them. So how will you defend Jesus over Allah? How will you defend Allah over
Yes.
over Ngai, over Nyasai? How do you argue for that? You can't. How do you know which one it was? What
But it's
method
the
will
same
you use
God.
to determine?
It's the same God. Is it the different languages? Maybe different names from different languages.
No, it
Because Nyasai, Gai, it's the same thing.
Do you know that all local deities are solving local problems? All local deities are solving local problems.
Okay, so Nyasai used to solve problems for the Luos.
Yes.
And Gai used to solve this local problems for the Kikuyu.
Guy was a rain god, God to solve the rain problems.
Okay.
If you come to Jesus amongst the European, they were talking about sin. You know, if you talk about what? If you look at all these deities, Zeus, god of thunder, you know, all these gods had all these gods are creations of local people in different places. But the idea of one global one, we don't have that. And another thing, if you have a god of rain, for example, today we have cloud seeding technology. The minute you have that, you don't need a god. What for? Gods were the ancient world's way of understanding things that were beyond their understanding. So if a volcano erupts, they say there's a god of fire who is angry at us, we have sinned. Let us catch one of us and offer sacrifice to that god. Maybe he will stop, you know, because they don't know what that is or why it happens. So they create a god to solve that problem, to help them understand and cope with all the devastation that would come with an eruption, you know. But when you now have tech science, we have ways of determining when a volcano will erupt. We can predict. You can know before, you can want people to vacate. You can have silos, food storage, you can build bunkers. What do you need the god of fire for? What do you need it for? So all these gods were created to solve local problems. And also existential questions which don't have answers. Where do we come from? Humanity doesn't know. We don't know. Our conscience is something which is a topic of discussion, a real topic of discussion. Where did our conscience come from? Our understanding of things, you know? There's a lot there. Yeah. Sorry, I've thrown you off. I'm so sorry.
I'm following.
Yeah, I've thrown you off the. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yes. Yeah. So these gods are creations of men to help themselves cope better, to give themselves comfort, to give themselves meaning and purpose and understanding and, you know, a peaceful death, so to speak. But in objective reality, you'd have a hard time proving any god. Yeah.
There's some point. There's a place you mentioned about Titanic. Yes. Tell us something about it.
The Titanic thing.
Yes.
It began with somebody who was threatening me, telling me that the makers of the Titanic,
Yes.
they
That's after you
mocked
took
God.
the Bible.
Yes,
and
that was
something.
after. Yes, that was after I'd torn the Bible. Actually, tore the Bible. And that video I tore that Bible was somebody who threatened me with being punished the same way the Titanic was punished for mocking God. You know. And so I was like,
that guy somehow mocked God. He said that even God cannot sink this ship.
Is that true or is that Christian propaganda?
No, that's what the person said. And after I don't know whether he said, like we get that from the documentaries and movies. I don't know.
That's mythology. That's Christian. That's church pew fables. I call them church pew fables. These are stories reinterpreted. One thing that happens with all Christians, it happens in a lot of Christian circles. Anytime a tragedy happens, they must offer some reinterpretation based on their gods to prove that their God is powerful. For example, an entire building burns down. Let's say 15 people have passed on in that fire. And then there was a Bible which never burnt. They come and say, you know what? They give some excuse there to say that God was defending his word. Right? That you people were unalive to prove that this God is true. You see, and that's such a wicked idea that 15 people, that God killed 15 people to prove the Bible. Do you know even dictionaries don't burn in fires? You know why? The pages are so many and they're tightly packed, so there's no air getting in. There's no air getting in. That's the reason why Bibles don't burn. It's not that there's a special God who's defending his word. Even dictionaries don't burn. Any kind of big books and they don't burn. all of them together. But the Christians must reinterpret it in that way. So similarly, even the Titanic, we have Christian propaganda. Any tragedy that happens, they must have their own explanation to make people fear their God even more. So they come and talk about the finger of God. Actually, we study that thing about the Titanic and how it sank. There's a whole thing about
Iceberg.
insurance fraud.
Yes.
There's something there about insurance fraud. There's something there about there's a lot of history that people don't understand. But when you go to the church and you're told the stories, you don't even go back later to Google to understand what happened. And you just believe in the church pew fables. You live in fear all your life. You will live in fear all your life. Yeah.
Something about the insurance fraud. What do you mean, insurance fraud?
No, there's where the conspiracy, there's the conspirators, and I'll say this allegedly.
Yes.
The makers of the Titanic, they wanted an insurance. They had a newer, better ship, which was going to be called the actual Titanic. But there was the older model, which they wanted to be destroyed. So overnight, they repainted the older one, put it on the sea, advertised a very big cruise ship, and all this kind of thing. Yeah, so even the way the engineering was done to make sure that that thing sinks, it was allegedly an insurance scam. And then again, there's an iceberg. You're talking about the iceberg, okay? I don't think it's that world didn't know that the ice under the water is bigger. Icebergs have been there. They've been sailing through that route the entire time. What do you mean they didn't know? You know,
They underestimated.
even if it's underestimations. He analyzed the whole world because wickedness had increased in the world. And then he saved 8 of his favorites, Noah and his children. Yeah. But a few minutes later, Noah and his children are also doing wickedness. And we're back to the same problem. So what did he solve? What was the point then? The Bible is mythology, by the way. It's not a real history. I hope you're not believing that the Bible is history. The Bible is not actual, like verifiable history. This is mythology that somebody came down and wrote about. Yeah, the concept of a global flood didn't even start with the Christian faith.
But that has an artifact that has been found, the ark, the Noah's Ark.
It wasn't found, my friend.
Oh, never been found?
Christian propaganda. They'll show you those movies and documentaries in the church, but do fact check. The person who found Noah's Ark went and found some. It was a volcanic mountain, and there's some lines that had formed on the ground. And the guy is like, "This must be the ark." So the guy went and took some toy equipment. It's not even actual equipment. These guys are using metal detectors to detect a wood that was initially built out of wood. The boat was wooden. How are you using a metal detector to detect? What are you detecting? Right? And whatever metals he was detecting are just the natural deposits that are found. You know how the minerals form in stones, in volcanic sites. So those lines he was seeing, later on, that entire thing was debunked. There's something called the scientific peer review process, where if somebody finds something, you call other scientists that these are the methods that came to this conclusion. Other scientists come.
Other archaeologists.
They also come and they rerun that test.
Yes.
Look at your data. They also conduct their own independent analysis. The person who did that was a proper Christian, an American. He's the one who did it, and he published even books. And those books are sold in churches, and people believe that these things are true. But is it true? First of all, the Noah's Ark story in itself, internal evidence against that story. Look at it. How is it that at salt water lakes and freshwater lakes all mixed into one global water? The fish would have all died. What did the lions eat for that 1 year?
Fish did not enter into the ark.
No, they didn't.
I'm just asking.
No, they didn't. Yeah, but according to that story, there's the global flood where both the fresh water and the salt water mixed into one ocean, one big covering the entire world.
Yes.
Well, that would automatically mean death for both fresh water, marine, and animal, the sea, saltwater marine life. It would mean death to them both. Right? Then also the idea of the animals, what did they eat? You have a boat the size of a football field. You fitted in 12,000 species inside there, in twos, and some of them even in sevens. And they were there for 1 year. This boat only has one window and one door, and the door was sealed shut by God. The window is only one where Noah goes to open to see. What were they breathing? What were they breathing? Again, there was no electricity. What were they using for lighting inside there? What were they eating? Okay, all these animals.
Excretion.
Excretion.
Walikuwa nenda washroom wapi?
Pardon?
Walikuwa nenda washroom.
Exactly, that's another question. Where did all these animals, because they were defecating, of course. How did the 8 men, and there were 4 men and 4 women, and Noah himself was 600 years old, right? You imagine what the age of his son was. And you're telling me that now at the age of 600, he didn't have grandchildren who could have entered this boat? No. Let's be honest. The man is 600 years old. He doesn't have grandchildren who can enter the boat? Yeah, there are many questions there. Lions. Okay, again, the other thing is that animals tend to be tropical, like they are adapted to certain climates. The lions live in the grassland savannas. Then you have the animals of the Antarctica. You have like the seals.
Yes.
How do you put these two in one boat for 1 year? The climate alone would destroy them. Okay, are there termites on the boat? Yeah, you have to ask these questions. Are there termites on the boat? That entire story is mythology. The idea of a
The
global
termites might have
flood.
entered in twos as well.
Pardon?
Even those, the termites.
The termites. Okay, and then another thing is that it
People have
seems the
eaten the
writer.
wood.
Yeah, they would have eaten the boat, of course, in 1 year. That's enough time. Yeah, they wouldn't have a boat at the end of a year. They even woodpeckers would have a boat at the end of 1 year. No, it doesn't work like that. And then also, if you look at yeah, let's be honest. Yeah. Think of boats. Even the people who've done marine engineering, they'll tell you this. The biggest wooden boat that can actually enter the sea is about 300 feet. But Noah's boat was 500 feet. How? The only way to build a structure that big is if you use steel reinforcement. You have to use metal reinforcement to build that size of a boat. It cannot survive. It cannot be a seaworthy vessel. And then you tell me it's holding all those species. No, your story ni jaba. Right? Yeah, but we excuse the Bible because we say it's a miracle of God, and people come up with all kinds of stories that, maybe God, God being God. And I'm like, honestly, the what? The fear of God is the beginning of all lies. Yeah. Because with God, all lies are possible. You'll believe anything, so long as you'll believe anything. You'll be told a mountain was eaten by a man, and you'll believe because it's God, God is behind it. This word God is used for all kinds of grifting and lying. Yeah. And people just believe. You just believe because, well, that's the condition that you've placed. Being a believer is dangerous. Yeah. Everybody here knows, all con men in Nairobi know. They know if you want to con people, go and aim for the Christians. How many scandals have happened in churches? People are scammed to land worth billions with a B. People are scammed.
They fear thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Fear paralyzes thinking, paralyzes questioning. And that's what the Christian faith does to people. It paralyzes thinking because now you're believing. You're relying on God to give you all the answers. You're relying on God to think for you. God has a plan. God will open the doors. God will give us revelation. All those kind of things. In the meantime, there's somebody who's thinking in reality and is manipulating you and is making a killing out of you. It's dangerous. Yeah. This thing of God is the beginning of all lies. Yeah. It's how people refuse to question. Yeah.
So you'd want our community to actually be questioning, questioning things.
Question, and we need to remove our minds from some spiritual delusions. Come into objective reality. The irony is this book, by the way, was brought here to us by these white colonizers, and it was also effective to make us not think and not question. We are all put in concentration camps. We are told these are Jesus is coming back to save you. Meanwhile, the one who's brought you the book is sleeping on your land, building his mansion on your land, fetching his water from your river and leaving you without water. Hey, my friend, that book has been used by empires upon empires. The Bible has been used, but it was an invention of the Roman Empire to manage their people. The Europeans adapted it and used it against their people. When they brought colonization, they used it here against our people. But the bottom line is it minuses thinking. It keeps you dreaming of heaven. At one day I'll receive a crown of glory. One day at the present sufferings are not worth considering compared to the glory that is to come. And Jesus will make it all okay. Jesus will come back. Meanwhile, you're suffering, and the person causing you to suffer is living on the wealth that by birthright belongs to you. They're living on your land. They're eating your food. Have you seen those mansions in Limuru, in those coffee? Have you seen those mansions they built, those castles they built? And they're using us as laborers. And us, we're just suffering when they feel they are digging for them with songs of heaven. With songs of heaven. That's all we get. One day. One day you'll see Jesus. Yo, it's a lie. It's a lie.
So that's
then the heaven is here on earth. Yeah.
So that's what we call the God of our oppressors.
Yes, the God of our oppressors. Yeah.
Tell us more how.
No, it's A slave and a master cannot worship the same God. If their God was that good, they would not have brought him to you. They would not have brought that God to you. That God was used in their civilization to manage their people. And now they brought it here to also manage our people. It's a mental management program. That's what it is. When your brain is switched off, you made docile, you made to stop thinking in the now. And that's in fact, that's the entire purpose of the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is to make you stop living in reality. You go and live in the spiritual realm. People are going there, they want to have a vision, have a dream, have a prophecy. You're escaping reality. But the reality or the objective reality is gone. It's been taken, all of it. Yeah. So that's crazy to me. It's really crazy. Yeah. Did you know that also in the what? When we were put in barracks, when the colonizer came and they put us in barracks, they cleared the bushes to make sure there's like security. Eh? But within the barracks, they would not provide them with toilet paper. And us Africans would use the leaves to wipe ourselves. But what was provided was a Bibles. And you know what they were using to wipe their own behinds? Pages of the Bible. The Bible is a book. God didn't kill them. God didn't unalive them. In fact, if it's cold, you can light the pages of the Bible to keep yourself warm. Yeah, it's like a newspaper. And in any case, I also did a video about this, about how these books are actually businesses of people. They are copyrighted material. Every Bible had a copy. Just open the first few pages, you see copyright information. NIV is a registered trademark.
You have a Bible here?
You ever had copy one?
Hard copy, Bible.
Hard copy.
Do you have one? No, we don't.
No, we don't have a hard copy. Anyhow, hard copy. Just open on the first few pages. You see copyright information. That there are rules about how to use this Bible. NIV is a registered trademark. To this day, the King of England collects royalties on the King James Bible, including those digital apps. When you see advertisements, the King of England is still making profits out of it. This is a commercial enterprise for human management. That's what it is. Yeah.
So maybe they are collecting that from the stationery and they maybe.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Of course. It's misappropriated culture. If you look at it, it's the same way our kiondo was patented outside the country. Right? The English people, the Old Testament is not their text. It's not. But they took something from somebody else's culture, added to it, then they're printing, binding, and selling it. But you cannot copy theirs. Yeah, that one is under copyright. Even people who publish Christian books will tell you this. There's a number of verses that you're allowed to copy without express written permission. But beyond that, you must get express written permission from either King James or NIV or whatever it is. You must get written permission. It's copyrighted material. Yeah, so we think that this book came from heaven, Come on. Ni biashara. It's a business.
It's a business.
It's a business. It's a business of mind management. The only heaven that exists is the one here on earth, the physical objective reality.
Heaven is right here.
The reality of your life.
So you agree with the Jehovah Witness?
Jehovah Witness? What do you mean?
Says that heaven is right here.
First of all, that idea of heaven with angels and saints. By the way, let's even talk about heaven and God and the way it's depicted in the book. Yeah. Hey. At heaven, at Jesus, if you read the book of Revelation, at Jesus has an army.
Yes.
And they're riding on horses.
Yeah.
Why does heaven need horses? What do the horses of heaven eat?
The chariots.
No, what do the horses of heaven eat? Are there stables in heaven?
What?
Are there stables for keeping those horses in heaven?
What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, the Bible tells you that Jesus will return. He had an army. He had an army and they had swords.
Yeah.
Why does heaven need swords? Who are they fighting against? If that is the supreme place where all power belongs, why do they need swords? Okay, in the depiction of heaven, you see them depicting heaven with a gate. To keep what out? According to the story, Satan was cast out of heaven. So what do they need a gate for? Some even depict it with a fence. What are they keeping out? Wild animals? Are there wild animals in heaven?
Okay, from my thinking.
That thing is man-made, my friend. It's the Roman Empire which compiled the New Testament. And they were putting symbols of their own power in the book. The military power of the Romans was also based on their horses and their chariots and their swords. And so, of course, you also see that in the book, in the depiction of their heaven. The idea of heaven is exactly that. A man with the sword. And then when Jesus comes down, he will come and kill everybody who didn't believe with the swords. And then the birds ate there. But that's what the Roman Empire used to do when it conquers other nations. It goes and analyzes people with swords, leaves the bodies there to be eaten by the birds. So to them, that's an ultimate power move. So to them, they also put it in the book. Then there's also the way the book of Revelation depicts the throne of God, for example. If you look at the book of Ezekiel, it's depiction of the throne of God. You see there are wheels, that God's throne has wheels. And they look like rings within rings, and then they have eyes on them and they're turning around. Okay, which means that the throne of God is a mobile thing. It's moving, right? And then there are 4 creatures with like the head of an ox, the head of a bull, the head of 4 creatures: the ox, the bull, the lion, and the man, right? But when you come to the book of Revelation, it was edited. The throne of God in the book of Revelation is not a mobile thing; it's a stationary throne. It's stationary. Even the creatures around the throne changed in the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, there's also the heavenly council of elders, the 24 elders of heaven. We don't see that from Ezekiel. So is this God changing? This thing is mythology. People are creating a story of their imagination of what God looks like, but they're relying on the symbols of what their own culture has. If you look at the throne of God according to the book of Revelation, it really looks a lot like the Roman emperors and also the English emperors. If you look at the way their throne is, that it's a chair, there's a scepter, there's a crown, and then there's a council. It's the exact same thing that they're writing in the book as the throne of God. The exact same thing. So there's nothing out there in the sky. There's no telescope which has seen such things. These are people writing stories that they made up. Yeah.
If God was African, then how would that story look like?
How does?
If maybe these stories were being narrated by Africans, how would those stories look like?
Now, if you're the closest thing I can get to an African idea of power, I'd look at, for example, like in a Shaka Zulu. Yeah?
Shaka Zulu.
Shaka Zulu. Those guys used to build like thrones. They used to sit on like animal skin on the floor. Probably that's what the god would look like, either to create a picture of him. But the beautiful thing with most Bantu cultures, they didn't bother to create images or ideas of what a god looks like, right? They didn't go that far. It was just an unseen god. We believe in him, but the idea of creating images didn't exist.
There are a few things that you mentioned about part of the Bible that do not make sense. Maybe part of it that you've mentioned right here is about the floods.
Yeah.
Can you give us some more that you're feeling like
more things that don't make sense? I'd talk of Jonah. Jonah. It takes 72 scuba tanks to survive under the ocean for 3 days as a human being. That's how much air you need.
Okay.
That's how much air you need to survive 3 days under the ocean.
Yes.
But this guy was thrown to the bottom and a fish swallowed him. Do you know how much water pressure? Again, the big fishes of the sea, the depth at which they live is the type of water pressure that can crush you to death. Right? You ever dove into the bottom of a pool, you feel like the water pressure in your ears. And that's just a pool of maybe like 11 feet and you're already feeling pressure. Now those big fish, they live kilometers under the water. And now here's a man, Jonah, going down to the bottom of the water and a fish swallows him. In fact, if you look at all the whales and the sharks, the throats of whales and sharks, there's none of them which has a throat big enough to accommodate a man. The animal might be very big, but the throat passage are very small, enough to just take some fish or something. But a whole human being passing through the throat of a fish? No way. And then after 3 days...
Not even a whale.
Yeah. Yeah, even a whale. No matter how big it is. The throats of those animals are very small. They cannot accommodate a whole man. Then, at Jonah, he was spat on the... One has to ask, do you see big whales coming to the shore? They live in the deep ocean. How do they come to the shallow waters?
That are the shallow waters. Those guys were traversing the sea and...
Typically, those very big fish, they don't come to the shallow waters or to the shore. They thrive more in the deeper ocean. But anyway, let's even assume that Jonah was spat onto the... So this guy gets up, goes preaching, And he preaches across an entire city of Nineveh for 3 days. 3 days to cross Nineveh. Nineveh was a very big city. How can you cross that entire city in 3 days?